Good morning, everyone. It's out right after the long weekend, the Labor Day weekend that we had. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. I know we've been busy doing a lot of stuff here, but which we're going to do a little video about that, talking about that. But for right now, I think today we wanted to talk about, in our black belt testing, we give all the candidates a small plant, which they are responsible for from the beginning of the journey for the black belt candidacy, which is about 6 months. And there were some questions about, people, well, really the question is, why are we doing this for? And maybe we didn't do the why because I don't see the follow-up on it as much, So the whole point was, it's in my opinion, it's really character development. It's character development over something that you don't need to do anything extra for, right? You just need to take care of this thing. Talk about consistency. This one is going to take, it's very principle based, and it's very based on consistency. It has nothing to do with your mood. It has nothing to do if you have time or not. And it's very principle based, which means there's only one way to do this. You can't have your own version of doing this. And the principle of a plant growing, it's basically you can't have your own version of it. You got to do what it's supposed to do. And so there's a lot of confusion between the candidates about, how they're doing it. Some of them are not doing it. Some of them are leaving it to their parents to do it. But Mr. Robert, you're a candidate, and you obviously done a good job with it growing, and some of the candidates have. What has been your experience so far?
Well, I guess the first thing is, just so you know, mine has done wonderful. It looks great. I think the pictures I took yesterday were like 44 inches tall, which is like almost twice the height that the basil's supposed to be. But it didn't all go smooth. I went through the same issues that some of the candidates did. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to take care of it. When the plant went from the seedling that was beautiful and green, and all of a sudden within a week it started to turn yellow and look like it was going to die on me, I had to figure out what was wrong. I made sure, it had been getting the water it needed, that it got sunshine and started to get exposed to the outside like it was supposed to, but it just all of a sudden, in 1 week, it went really bad. So I started trying to think about what kind of things it could be, and I found out that the seedlings were growing so well, they had completely filled the pot with roots.
So it needed to be repotted.
So it needed to be repotted. And I think I shared that with a number of the candidates because I figured the same thing is probably happening to them that happened to me.
Right.
So I didn't know exactly what to do, but I basically just took it out of the pot, chopped off the roots at the very bottom because there were too many of them, and then I split it in half and put it into 2 bigger pots and let it start growing again. It was really amazing. Within a week and a half, it was back to its green self, both pots, growing great. And again, just kept an eye on it, and I had to actually pot it to a bigger pot one more time, and I split it again, and I shared some of them with some of the candidates that were having issues. Then once those pots started to be not big enough anymore, it was time to put them in the ground.
Right.
And I found a spot, dug it up, made room for the potting soil that we've been using to go in there, but just created a nice space where they were protected. But what I found out of the whole exercise that was interesting to me was I didn't have to spend a lot of time every day. I had to pay attention and decide whether there was something that needed to be done. And then other than that, all I had to do was to walk by once or twice a day and just look at it and make sure things were okay.
Right.
Is the soil moist, right? Is the plant green? Or now that I've got this giant plant, did I pick the flowers off the top so that the leaves didn't start?
So you did a little bit of homework to find out how to make this basil grow better.
I did, but it was amazing. And those of you that have been online to do anything, after you look at 2 or 3 articles about anything, your phone and your computer start sending you articles about the same thing. So I have more information about basil than I know what to do with. But like I said, the main thing that was really kind of surprising was the plant wanted to grow. It didn't care about the hot weather we had. It loved the hot weather as long as the ground was moist. There were times where there were a couple of leaves that looked bad, but it didn't have any real pest problems. And again, the thing I learned was I could make this into something that just dominated my life, which I didn't have time for, or I could do the things that needed to be done at the right times and then give it the daily attention. You know, like, does it need water? Does it need 2 minutes of water today?
And isn't that the same thing we do with our training?
We should do the same. Yeah, with
our diet.
That was the discovery,
yeah.
Right? Is that this is no different than anything else, except for the fact that it's there in front of you. You can see it, and you can see the results, and you know it's based on you. Right. It has nothing to do with the plant.
And as much as it needs water, lack of water will kill it, and too much water will kill it. So the trick is appropriate amount of attention.
Correct.
And that's the lesson here. I was sharing, Sensei Robert, a poem that a very famous Iranian poet has written, Sohrab Sepehri, during the Vietnam War, that area, that came out that said something about, you know, in general, we should spend more time because it was a really hot summer. So we should spend a little bit of time, not too much time, a little bit of time watering the birds, or provide water for the birds because it's really hot. And everybody liked the poem, it's beautiful. That another poet who, I don't want to say they're rivals, but, you know, came out and said something like, well, during this time of war, the Vietnam War and all this stuff going on in the world, you know, is that the right thing to do for us to be thinking about water for birds, you know? And which, you know, in some ways it made sense to some people. And the original Sohrab Sepehri turned around and said, the same people that are not watering the birds will end up killing people in the war, or something to that effect. And it really brought me to the idea of, you know, this is how we teach kindness. And you talked about an example about, you know, well, you could talk about that, what you said about this side and that side. Right.
So I was watching a NASCAR race this past weekend, and at the beginning of the race, they do a prayer service for everybody that's there at the race. And one of the things that they always do is they're very good about saying, and, you know, please watch over the people who protect our country, who allow us to have these freedoms, who sacrifice their lives, you know, so that we can have lives that we all enjoy back here. And it caught me by surprise. There was a little thought that creeped in, the thought that prayer should also include the people that we're going up against as well. Because in general, the people that are fighting they're not the ones making the decisions.
Right.
They haven't made they don't create the enemy, right? They don't view themselves as the enemy. They view the people in front of them. And I just thought what a great thing it would have been if that had somehow been included in that same prayer where they said, and watch over the people on both sides that are just doing their best to protect the people they care about.
Right.
So, yeah, it was interesting.
I don't know if you remember, but we had a black belt testing in Agora. I don't know how many years ago, but I remember in the morning, there were, I don't know how many people were testing, but there's a bunch of them who were late. And we found out there was a fatal accident on the freeway, on the 101 going from the valley to the Agora area. And a lot of people are stuck, you know. And I remember for a second, everybody's talking about, oh, somebody should go out there and text them, tell them to come, you know, or somebody go get them. And I just thought, you know, this is not the time to do that, you know. So I asked everybody to pray, and everybody thought we're going to pray for people to be here on time, otherwise, you know, all the consequences that will happen. And I remember thinking to myself, that's the wrong thing. I think we should pray for the people that had that fatal accident, you know, effect. Like, let's pray for those families because this is somebody's son or daughter or husband or wife, or some people, you know, let's pray for that. And I remember how it shifted the whole energy of everyone. Of thinking, oh my God, you know, I can't believe they're late. You know, should be, you know, whatever, you know, thank God we came early. Everybody, but nobody was thinking about, oh, there was an accident. Let's pray for you know, those people, you know. Anyway, so I think the whole point of this whole exercise is to teach principle-based activity in a very result-oriented way. You might not see that in many things that we do in our daily life, but raising a plant is like that, because if you mess up, it will show. And if you keep doing, not too much, like I said, too much water, not enough water, both kill the plant. But if you pay appropriate attention to it, and maybe by learning that, we learn and we teach and we share the concept of paying appropriate attention to all the other small things in our lives. So that's the purpose of us, the purpose of this lesson of having the candidates take care of the basil plant. So,
yeah, like I said, to me it was just an eye opener, because when you get these things that are so simple and straightforward, that's the question I keep asking myself: is where else in my life are there things that need this kind of attention that I'm either ignoring and ending up with a wilted plant, or that I'm overspending time on, and as a result I'm making it I'm taking away from other things just to make sure that I shine in one area. This really was like this was a great needle, and it tells you just by the way it looks whether you're doing too little or too much. And in that respect, and like I said, once you got to a point where you understood what the plant needed and how it went, which took some energy, that took extra work. But once you got there, it became something that was just a joy every morning to go out and look out my kitchen window and see this giant bush growing like crazy. Also, it also helped that the person who turned us on to growing basil leaves actually asked me to bring him some basil every once in a while for his kitchen. So.
Anyway, so I hope this will clarify the why behind the exercise that we do all the candidates. So have a great week, everyone.